what's going on with the David Grusch SCIF? We've got that and a lot more to talk about today, so get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please like and subscribe and let me know what you think in the comments below. Okay, let's just get right to it. We've got a lot to cover today. Eric Burleson, Representative Eric Burleson, is giving us an update on where things stand with the David Grusch SCIF.
One day after Grusch's historic testimony in front of Congress, you proposed an amendment in the House that to renew Grusch's security clearance, which would allow him to go into a SCIF with all of you and share all the classified information that he knows. David Grusch told me yesterday that that still hasn't happened. Why not?
I put that amendment onto one of the appropriation bills, and unfortunately the appropriation bills have not made it through the final process. So, but if when we get to any kind of renewals, if they decide to do an omnibus or they decide to do a continuing resolution, I can take that same language and try to attach it to any of those efforts.
You are one of the 4 original members.
So there you go. David Grusch still hasn't gotten his clearances back, but they are working on it, so fingers crossed. George Knapp says not all is lost with the Schumer Rounds Amendment.
And one of the overwhelming positives, in my view, is confirmation that there is something to hide. I mean, that you don't have this kind of opposition, them pulling strings and twisting arms and getting Congress people to oppose this legislation without ever really explaining why they opposed it, unless you've got something to hide. I think it's a tell. If you're playing poker, this would be considered a tell. We really do have something to hide, and that's why we're fighting so hard against it. So you've smoked out the opposition. You've confirmed that there really is something to hide. You've got legislation that so far is approved that will withhold funding for any kind of reverse engineering programs or efforts. Any government funding can't go there unless you tell Congress about it. That's progress. And one of the overwhelming...
I like it. I like it. You know, good take by George. You know, we've smoked out the opposition, and indeed we have. Not only do we know that there is something to hide and that there are people hiding it, but we know who specifically is hiding it. We know the corrupted Congress people. We know the companies that are involved. So we smoked out the opposition. I really like that term. And that is definitely one of the things that has come out of passing some mutilated version of the Schumer Rounds Amendment. And, hopefully we will get some withholding of funds from the UFO control group. Now, they likely have alternate avenues of funding, unfortunately, but surely they were getting a lot of money through the government. And some of this is likely to be choked off with this new legislation. So will that make them come out of their holes and demand money? What will be the result of that? It could be juicy. It could be juicy. The UFO group trying to sue Congress for money for their black projects. I don't know, but it could get interesting. It could get weird. Meanwhile, has Avi Loeb changed his tune regarding David Grusch? Well, this is an article that Avi wrote in the debrief, and I'll let you read the full article at your leisure, and I'll link to it below. But check out this pertinent section about David Grusch. A few days ago, Avi says, I had the privilege of a long conversation that lasted more than an hour with David Grusch, who recently testified under oath to the U.S. Congress about programs within the government for crash retrieval and reverse engineering of alien spacecraft. Any related findings would save me time and effort in retrieving the evidence myself within the coming decades. Yeah, right? Avi's looking for, spherules on the bottom of the ocean. If he could just get his hands on a UFO, that would definitely save him some time. David and I hope that any such evidence will eventually be shared with scientists who can make sense of what it means. What lies outside the solar system should not be hidden behind the veil of national security, but rather shared with all humans like any other scientific discovery about the cosmos. Learning from interstellar survivors might be critical for making contingency plans in anticipation of the time when the habitability of our own world will come to an end. So there you go. Avi Loeb was, I guess, initially skeptical on David Grusch, and of course he's a mainstream science guy. and he's approaching it from a mainstream science angle, not looking at the UFO control group and all the mythology and the stuff around that. I guess that's understandable, and of course he's trying to make this relatable to the mainstream. But now it looks like he is getting aboard the crazy train. So let me know what you think about that in the comments below. Meanwhile, Tucker Carlson gives some deep thoughts about the UFO phenomenon on Redacted. This is over a 3-minute long conversation. I'm not going to play it all, but here's a slice of it.
The second thing that bothers me is the UFO story. And the more you dig into that and talk to people with actual knowledge of it, again, that's another story where there are some, fanciful ideas floating around that are just, there's no evidence that they're true. But if you talk to people who, have actual knowledge of it that they gathered themselves, there are parts of that story that I do not understand at all that are really, really, really dark. It's so dark that I, haven't told my wife about it. I mean, I haven't verified any of this, but this is not just stuff that I read on the internet. I know you all are very, very grounded in that story, so I think I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But there's some stuff there that's just like, man, I'm not even sure what that means. There's a spiritual component there that I don't fully understand.
So there you go. I'll let you watch the full episode at your leisure, but some really intriguing comments from Tucker Carlson, a former mainstream anchor, talking about the dark aspects of the ufology, of the UFO phenomenon, is he talking about human mutilations? Is he talking about government abductions of people, assisting the aliens in abductions, or performing their own abductions, kidnapping people, or forcibly recruiting people with psi abilities to interact with technology? That's the Michael Herrera type information. And I may have some news, and maybe even an interview with Mike coming up soon. I hope so. Important information. So that seems to line up with some of the Lance Corporal Jonathan Wygant testimony as well. Fascinating. But here we have Tucker talking about the darker stuff. And also, he says the government is complicit in this dark stuff. Then he even touches on the spiritual aspects of it. Tucker is going all in on the UFO phenomenon, and I love it. Joe Murgia has this tweet. He says, I've shared this a few times before, but it's worth sharing again as it contains relevant speculation related to what Tucker Carlson said. Gary was on Carlson's show. And here is just a little clip.
Why would they hide this stuff? What would be the highest potential reason why information would be withheld from all of us?
Well, I mean, people have talked about, mass hysteria, etc. Maybe there's something about them that's really scary. That to know that we are somebody else's property, or heaven help that maybe we're farmed for something, that would be awful. That would be icky. It isn't as if we don't farm things, but just to know that you're not the top of the food chain might not be a pleasant thing. But, again, it's about what information do you give to a species like us that they wouldn't kill themselves with, right? If you give people access to free energy, is even a small amount of free energy only a step away to too much energy, that you basically blow up the planet.
So there you go, some possibilities about what Tucker Carlson may have been referring to. Definitely there are some dark aspects to the UFO phenomenon, and I've covered those before, as have many others. Some have done deep dives into the darker aspects. I prefer not to do that, because part of my research and others' research and experiences, well, that has convinced me that we co-create a lot of these experiences. By no means all of them, but some of what we are interacting with regard to the phenomenon and what I call the greater phenomenon, we are, it is a interaction with our consciousness, and we are, co-creating some of what we are experiencing. The phenomenon is working with us on our connection with it, and whatever we align with or resonate with, sometimes that's what you get. So, it's probably not helpful to align with the dark stuff. Now, there are objective realities behind this, that it could be light or dark, and that, don't care about co-creation, that are, I don't think the, abductions and attacks and mutilations are because people are co-creating those. Those are, objective things that are simply happening regardless of all of that. And we do need to be aware of that, be forewarned and forearmed, as they say. I don't know if there's any arming against this stuff. I don't tend to dwell on the dark stuff, though, for those reasons. But it is important to be aware of the dark stuff, and if it is possible to prevent it or to work against it, then by all means we need to. Just to expound on that thought a little bit, I have to say that I, like many of you guys watching this, most likely, are interacting with the phenomenon to some extent. I'm not a high-level experiencer or anything, but I am interacting with the phenomenon. And because of that, I'm extremely cautious of the direction of my thoughts and energies. And, when you go into CE5 and you're consciously trying to interact with the phenomenon, whether it's through meditation or through some other means, you have to go into it with love and a desire for fellowship if you want to interact with the positive parts of the phenomenon. Because there are negative parts to it that you probably could summon if you wanted to. I wouldn't advise that, and it's because of that I'm extremely cautious in the direction of my thoughts. But like I said, knowledge is probably our best defense, right? To be forearmed is to be forewarned is to be forearmed. So there has to be a balance between consciously engaging with the positive aspects of the phenomenon and being forewarned and armed against the negative. How do you strike that balance? I think that's an important question, and I look forward to your thoughts on that in the comments below. And a little bit more inspiring train of thought. This was sent to me by Nico, so thank you very much, Nico. This is really cool. Has the mythical lost city of Dwarka in Hindu mythology been found? The mythical lost city of Dwarka, Lord Krishna's dwelling place on Earth, a 12,000-year-old submerged ancient city that proves major discrepancies exist in the history we are force-fed. Carbon-14 dating on some wooden post found that the submerged Dwarka yielded an age of 9,500 years, though this has been debated in academic circles. What are we talking about? We are talking about this submerged city or whatever it is, and you can see that it is clearly a man-made thing of some sort. Very intriguing. Here's a depiction of what the mythical Dwarka may have looked like. But continuing on, let's see. The modern Dwarka is today one of the 7 sacred towns of Hinduism, visited each year by pilgrims worshiping Krishna. The search for its submerged part began in the 1930s, and the first archaeological excavation took place in 1963. Numerous ancient artifacts were found, as well as the submerged remains of the ancient Dwarka during excavation work led by an underwater archaeologist. Between 1983 and 1990, the archaeologist discovered a fortified foundation on which the ancient city walls must have been built along the riverbanks. The stone blocks used for the construction, pillars, and irrigation systems were found, but a debate is still ongoing regarding the dating of the site. Some have suggested it was submerged 5,000 years ago, but no one knows how that happened. Dwarka is mentioned in a number of texts, including the Mahabharata, and I'm going to have trouble with the pronunciation on some of these, so I'm just going to skip that so I don't embarrass myself too much. But moving on, it says the Mahabharata says that Dwarka had 9 million royal palaces, all constructed with crystal and silver and decorated with emeralds. It was supposed to have been built on 6 blocks, 2 on the right bank and 4 on the left. Whatever has been traced so far conforms to the description to an astonishing extent. Well, I don't think they found 9 million palaces, but certainly intriguing that there is this underwater city that may be an ancient Indian or Hindu site of some sort. Is it really the mythical Dwarka? Is it something else? If they just had 1 million palaces, I would be happy. But let me know what you guys think about this and everything else today in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this video, please give me a big thumbs up. I sure would appreciate it. Smash the subscribe button and the bell to be notified of future videos. You don't want to miss a thing. Join me on social media, Facebook and Twitter, links below. Love to see you guys there. If you wanted to support Cosmic Road in a bigger way, please consider grabbing a coffee mug or a t-shirt. See the merch store below, or by becoming a channel members. Channel members are rock stars, and I really appreciate you guys' support. Thank you. Also, channel members get to see videos hours or even a day ahead of everybody else. So click the join button in the first link below. Meanwhile, there's plenty of other videos to check out on the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. This is Jack with Cosmic Road, signing out.